You're watching TVC Breakfast. It's a special edition of today, June 12, and we're looking at the country, how we have fared so far in the first, second, third, and now the fourth republic, and then 20 years of what you may call the Fourth Republic and the unbroken democracy. We're going ahead and making progress. But let's look into the papers now, see what the headlines are saying this morning across Nigeria. I have a journalist, Dario Dufowoko, here with me in the studio, and a lawyer and public affairs analyst, Jide Ologun, here in the studio. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Happy Democracy Day and happy June 12th. All right, let's begin with the blueprint. That's where we start from this morning. 9th National Assembly leadership. Lawan Floss Ndume Gbajabiamila Downs Bago, and I'll be fair to all. The Senate President says that. In the election, free and fair, Ndume is saying that. U.S. tasks new leaders on insecurity. It's time to work for Nigeria. Speaker Gbajabiamila is saying that. And Buhari urges collaboration. You find all that on the front page of the blueprint. All right, let's move now to the Nigerian News Direct. How Lawan Gbajabiamila defeated Ndume Bago. 17 PDP lawmakers supported Lawan. I'll be fair to all. Senator Lawan as APC mocks PDP over Ndume's choice. Okay, you find that on the front page of the News Direct. Let's go to Daily Trust now. Daily Trust is our next paper now. National Assembly. APC takes firm control as Lawan Gbajabiamila win. Buhari, we don't desire a rubber stamp legislature. Okay, the Senate President, Ahmed Lawan, has said they will not be a rubber-stamped legislature. All right, from there, let's go to the Vanguard. 9th National Assembly leadership, how Lawan Gbajabiamila others emerge winners. Lawan Floss Ndume in Senate, Baja defeats Bago to emerge Speaker. Omagege beats Ekweremadu with 68 votes to emerge Deputy Senate President. Adjourns till tomorrow, or Senate adjourns till tomorrow, rather. Buhari congratulates Lawan, Baja, and others. Okay, all that on the front page of the Vanguard. The Nation is our next paper now, the Nation newspaper, and it says, Lawan is saying, I'll be fair to all. Omakege defeats Ekweremadu, Gbajabiamila, I'll shake tables. You find that on the front page of the Nation newspaper. Okay, the Daily Sun is the next one now. 9th National Assembly, Lawan Baja leads Senate, House of Reps. Omakege Wase emerged deputies. You find that on the front page of the Daily Sun. All right, gentlemen, the build-up to the National Assembly leadership election seemed like there was so much that was going to go down. But eventually, it was seamless, it was straightforward, it was transparent, and all of that. Were you surprised what you saw yesterday, if you have to juxtapose it against how things were, how things were building up to the election? Let me start with you, Dari.
Oh, well, happy Democracy Day.
Yeah, happy Democracy Day.
Yeah, the eventual outcome of the National Assembly election, actually, in my opinion, justifies what we've been saying. A lot of us had called attention to the fact that the ruling party, the APC, seemed to got it right this time, as against what happened in 2015. 2015, both the process and the outcome were rancorous because the ruling party didn't put its acts together. But what we saw play out now was a party that learned from its mistakes and did what it had to do. You saw Ndume saying the process was free and fair. And we all saw the process. And even we should give credit to the officials of the National Assembly, the clerks, the others, because they played their role openly. You see, when you apply openness and fairness in handling any process, the outcome will be something acceptable to all and sundry. So that it came the way it did became obvious right from the beginning. In spite of the hues and cries from some quarters, I was optimistic that it was going to go peacefully because those who wanted to contest at all costs were not stopped by even their party using any illegitimate means.
Right.
efforts to stop one or two were carried out legitimately within the acceptance of the Constitution.
All right.
So at the end of the day, everybody had his or her say, then the majority had their way.
Okay. Jide, I wonder, when you're watching all the unfolding events, I wonder what was going through your mind when it comes to a system that is meant to flow with the procedure and process, how everything was so open, everything was so straightforward in the eyes of all of those who contested, in the eyes of all of those who watched, to understand.
Yeah, I mean, we had an improved version of election in the National Assembly. And you should have expected that since we have two dominant parties, contesting for these offices, there must be all the build-up that we saw. But right now, leadership has emerged, and we don't have a situation where some are questioning the process or trying to stampede the outcome. But then, this is now a brilliant opportunity for the ruling party, APC, that probably learned from what happened in 2015 to improve on the quality of governance now. And I would be recommending what happened in the US because, I mean, the legislative arm is to support the executive and the judiciary. Between 1963 and 1964, the 36th president of the US, Lyndon B. Johnson, popularly called LBJ, came up with the Great Society concept. That was a moment when America spent so much on the Vietnam War, and it was choking the economy, and they said, no, let's migrate from this unnecessary expenditure and mobilize resources into Medicare, Medicaid, education, pulling people out of poverty. And they achieved that. Even though he was a Democrat, the Republican took up that system too.
Being
so
proactive
let's
for the country.
now make this society better. And it's a good thing the Senate President has identified that insecurity is a major problem. We still have to work on our economy. We have to work on national integration. And if we do all this, I mean, going forward, we can look back and say, now, we are beginning to feel the positive impact of democracy. Okay,
we have to leave it here now. So much to ponder about, so much to look at. But we have to drop it here now. Thank you very much, Jide Ologun, for coming on the program.
Thank you.
And thank you, Darius. Thank you. Right.
To take a look at stories making the headlines in Nigerian newspapers, and I have with me in the studio a journalist, Dario Odufowokon, and a lawyer and public affairs analyst, Jide Ologun. Gentlemen, happy Democracy Day. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you here. All right, now let's head straight to the papers, and I start with the blueprint. 9th NAS leadership, Lawan Floors Ndume, Gbajabiamila Downs, Bago. I'll be fair to all, Senate President, election free, fair Ndume. U.S. tasks new leaders on insecurity. It's time to work for Nigeria, Speaker Buhari urges collaboration. To the front page of the Nigerian News Direct, how Lawan Gbajabiamila defeated Ndume Bago. 17 PDP lawmakers supported Lawan. I'll be fair to all, Senator Lawan, as APC mocks PDP over Ndume's choice. To the Daily Trust now, National Assembly, APC takes firm control as Lawan Gbajabiamila win. Buhari, we don't desire a rubber stamp legislature. To the Vanguard, 9th National Assembly leadership, how Lawan, Gbaja, others emerged winners. Lawan floors Ndume in Senate, Gbaja defeats Bago to emerge Speaker. Omar Agege beats Ekweremadu with 68 votes to emerge Deputy President. Senator John Steele tomorrow. Buhari congratulates Lawan, Gbaja, others. And to the Nation newspaper, Lawan, I'll be fair to roll. Omar Agege defeats Ekweremadu. Gbajabiamila, I'll shake tables. And to the front page of the Daily Sun, 9th National Assembly, Lawan Gbaja lead Senate, House of Reps, Omar Agege Wase emerge deputies. All right, gentlemen, although the papers are flooded with the stories of the emergence of the leadership of the National Assembly, we will be focusing on today, June the 12th, the new Democracy Day. And as we know, so many delegations are coming into the country to celebrate this day with Nigeria. But then let's start with June the 12th itself. How significant was the struggles of June the 12th to this day, the celebration of our democracy and celebrating it this day? Does this recognition really carry the spirit of the struggles that we saw June 12, 1993? I'll start with you.
You know, June 12 represents a moment when Nigerians came out to vote en masse, openly, beyond ethnic considerations, beyond religion consideration. And it was qualified as the fairest, the most credible elections we've ever had in the country. But alas, somewhere down the line, the election was annulled. The result could not be concluded. And MKO Abiola eventually declared himself. We know that that took away his life eventually. So it was a rape on democracy, because when some of the powerful elements began to confess, you know, they said it was due to a force beyond the president himself then, who the head of state, IBB. And shockingly, some of those powerful elements, though they are few, are still in the country. But you need to ask a question. The tag then was Hope 93. What was MKO bringing on the platform of SDP to eradicate poverty and make Nigeria a great society for all? So looking back now, even those who are annulled in and those who have gone through offices, have they been able to achieve the eradication of poverty? Where is the country today? And I think this should be a springboard for us to now ask that question again. Should poverty be a description of this country? Should people be afraid and intimidated within this country? Should we have an enabling environment? Should we deliver on the dividends of democracy? Right. If yes, I think this is the time to start that journey, because whether we like it or not,
we've lost
the future of June 12, 1993 is today. There is a future we are working towards, and we hope that going into that future, we have a better narrative.
Dari, taking from what he said, the future of June 12.
Yeah, the future of June 12
is today.
You see, June 12 is a movement. It's a movement that started on that day in 1993, when Nigerians moved for the first time in one particular direction. On that day, the 12th of June 1993, Nigerians collectively decided that we want hope. Not just for the generation of that time, not for the people then, but for generations yet unborn. You can imagine the hopelessness Nigeria suffers today. That is a result of the failure of the government of that era to implement the hope offered Nigerians.
So you believe that something would have changed?
A lot will have changed.
If Abiola had come in at the time?
No, June 12 was not just about MK Abiola. June 12 was about a generation of people, a pool of individuals, a pool of opinions, a pool of ideas coming together to say there is need for a change. And for example, some of us, as young as we were then, I was freshly out of secondary school, we were part of that movement. And when the election was announced, we were on the street under one organization or the other. And everybody felt we took a decision.
But some of those people served in the Abacha.
Who were those who served in that? Let's analyze this thing. Who were those people who served in Abacha's regime? How old were they then? They were the older part of the struggle. If you look at those,
was it about their age?
It's about age. It's about class. It's about interest. Those people, would you conveniently have said they were more interested in giving hope to this my own generation than some of us then? The answer would have been no. Those people, where would they benefit more in the real sense of it? A military government that was currying their favor, that was offering them a lot of incentives so that they work against the actualization of June 12, or an MK Abiola who was then in detention. So you would discover that a lot of interest came to play. Immediately, the election was annulled. Some people were hoping that, yes, we have worked for June 12 election, we have worked for MKO to become president. He's going to appoint ministers, he's going to appoint this, and we're going to benefit. Suddenly, that hope was dashed. In their own opinion, MKO's election was annulled, and they were not going to be ministers again. They worked for SDP. They worked for MKO because they wanted to be ministers. And now, a military government that annulled that election offered them the same thing they were looking for under MKO, and they simply grabbed it. But for others who worked for that election, who worked for MKO because they want a better future for Nigeria, they didn't take such offer. And those are the kind of people
And some persons that were still part of the struggle who did not want that offer are still alive. How much impact have they made so far?
Yes, that is where we are now saying. But for the annulment of that election, such people will have made impact. Right. But the annulment of that election took away the opportunity for them. But now we are here commemorating that day. We should go beyond just celebrating that day. We must still return the opportunities that hope offers in 1993.
Gentlemen, we have to leave it at this point. Thank you so much for your contribution. You're watching TVC Breakfast, and we're streaming.
Video now. My guests have been sitting down and we're looking at this. The democracy we talk about. The point there is, one would ask, when it comes to June 12th, that became a phenomenal and very unique or peculiar occurrence. Some Nigerians feel that anytime there's an election out of the military, there's always that enthusiasm. In 1979, it was the same thing. In 1999, it was the same thing. So some feel that it is what would have really naturally occurred after any democratic election, after a military dispensation. Let me start with you, Jide. What do you think about that?
Let's pick it up from the Constitution. If you look at Chapter 2 of the Nigerian Constitution as amended, it says that the governance of the country shall be based on the principles of democracy and social justice. And for this purpose, sovereignty belongs to the people from whom the government derives the power. And the primary purpose of government shall be the security and the welfare of the people. So you now ask yourself, are some elements interested in seeing the people secured or seeing them manipulated? And that is why when that election took place, some were threatened. Their personal interest in the country was threatened, and they came up with excuses to derail the mandate of the people. But good enough, they have all realized that except you keep faith with that social contract, you cannot succeed, because years down the line, we can see all the efforts in trying to remedy that, I call it political violence, has failed. Because let's find out the final result today. Nigeria is in poverty. In Nigeria, we don't have national integration. And all these should ask us that, have we really embraced democracy?
Democracy in Nigeria now, we see a lot of delegation from across the world coming to Nigeria. One significant attendee to this delegation is from the Western Sahara. That is not very free yet, as the case may be, and Nigeria has been in the forefront of ensuring and supporting and lending a voice in Sahrawi being free. Exactly. Remember the role we played in South Africa and all of that. What do you think this means for Western Sahara?
The coming of the Sahrawi delegation is a pointer to the fact that they also love freedom. They also want democracy. And it's an appreciation of the role over the years, decades now, that Nigeria has been involved in that part of Africa. Their democracy is in turmoil, their freedom is in shambles, and we've been working with other countries to ensure that. But it's good. They are coming, like others who have also come to celebrate with us, is something significant. But like something I always want to add, even before June 12 became a national holiday, is the fact that celebrating June 12 will be incomplete until we remember the victims of that annulment. It was not a day event. It was an event that ran for years. Some people, like MK Abiola, became victims of that singular action. We had labor leaders who were killed, student union leaders who lost their lives,
journalists
who were maimed, killed. I can count on the tip of my finger student leaders, names, who were killed. Their parents or loved ones are still alive. I can tell you about, because some of us were actively involved. I was a national executive of National Association of Nigerian Students in 93, 94. So we were involved. We have student leaders who today are amputees as a result of what they suffered during. There are those who are today battling psychological trauma from being in detention. I remember very well that more than 200 of us were handed into detention in Jos in 1994, early 1994, for protesting in Lagos. We were taken out of Lagos and taken to Jos. And we spent months, precisely about 2 months. There are people who today are not normal human beings because of the
that
trauma.
Experience.
So in the euphoria of celebrating June 12, we must remember these victims. We must find a way of those who are still alive, giving them succor. And those who are dead, let their relatives and loved ones also be part of this celebration in as much as possible.
All right, Jide, taking it from that window, you could recall that the president did not make a speech on handover day. All Nigerians are expecting that speech today. Whatever he's going to say about democracy, about the next 4 years, the next dispensation, all of that will be, will be unveiled today. What do you expect the president to touch in his speech today?
I expect that, particularly now that we have leaders from around the world here, that the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations should be the guide and vision for this leadership. The world is talking about zero tolerance for hunger, zero tolerance for poverty, talking about decent work, talking about health, talking about, human development. And when you focus on development, you make those who have paid the sacrifice, you make them to rejoice. You secure the future. And let's come back home. Even the document that binds us together, the Constitution of this country, if you look at Section 16, it has mandated the government to provide adequate shelter, adequate food, minimum, reasonable living wage, care for the old, unemployment benefits for all citizens. So if you care for the people, you will change the narrative. But above all, I'm here to say the sense of unity that will drive this process.
All right.
And when we harness all our resources and love each other and deliberately develop the nation, then we can look back and appreciate that sacrifice.
We wait to see how all of these will play out, certainly. Thank you very much, Jide Ologun, for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Dario Dufon, thank you so much as well for coming.